Everybody wants the nectar, everybody wants that elixir of Amrit, and they want to continue their life. But here we have to understand the word Amrit so that it is not dying, it is not dying, it is not living forever. Let us go a little bit in the word and to understand what is Amrutattva God is talking about here. Main part is that Amrut means cease to exist. Anything which cease to exist is Mrut. Anything which stops in action or anything which stops in its experiences, in its reactions, in its feelings, is considered as a dead person. As a dead person is Mrut, and Amrut means continuity. Thou shall not die. Amrut means continuity. And what is liberation? So here the Amrutattva is talked as liberation. We are free. When we are not free, we are Mrut. So here Amrutattva means liberation, release, freedom, and Mrut means enslavement, captivation and bondage. When something is dead, it does not move, it does not feel and act. So when we are forgetting ourselves as a soul, as an energy, or as an Atma in the body, we are enslaved by the senses and the functions of the body. This enslavement is nothing but Mrut. How it is Mrut, let us say. So let us take an example. We say that people, especially in case of politics and governance, as dead when they do not react. If imagine, take another case of somebody is injured or somebody is getting suffered, and people look at them. People gather around that person. A person has fallen on the road and in some accident, or there are a few people who come in to help, but most of the people, they just look at it and they walk away. They do not have the compassion or connection with the other person. They will comment, it's so very bad, oh my God, what has happened and all that. But they will not come for support or help. They do not react. They do not react what is a righteous way. So somebody or something which does not react is Mrut. A dead body doesn't react. So even though that person is alive and is moving around, but it doesn't react in a righteous position, in a position which is righteous way to act, the person is Mrut. And same way in everywhere, even in politics, even in governance. When a person is not functioning basically to do his or her own righteous job, they are dead. And why people do not do it? Because they are controlled by the senses and by the fear. Hence the person who works only for the happiness of these perishable senses is obviously dead. So if we follow the things which are going to be dead, we will be dead also. If we follow the senses and the need and only the command of the senses, one day those senses are going to die because the body is going to perish. If our full enslavement is for the senses, the day the senses will die, we will also die. And extrapolating it, even if we are alive, but we are still in control of the senses which are actually dead, then we are dead. So we are Mruta. That is what the Amrutattva is. We are out of the bondage. That is what the God is trying to say. If we follow the things which are going to be dead, we will be dead. Person who just follows the senses will not be free and independent. And it is a slavery of oneself. It is slavery within. We can understand it as an example of the drug addiction. When people have the drug addiction, we say that that person is not in control of a that person is dead. He is mruta. He is not alive. He is not able to take independent action. He is not able to take care of himself. This is an addiction, and that is mruta. It is not only the physical part of the death, it is also the psychological part, the action which we cannot take. So the next word here is the kalpate. Kalpate means a person is eligible to be amrut. So we understand now here is that amrut is not a physical part only. A person may die, but a person is still alive. He is liberated from the control of the senses, and that is why he or she is eligible to get the amrutatva. He is ready to become a amrut. The person will become amrut, not dead. Let us take example of martyrs. They give their life for the society, for the people, for environment. They are always alive in the heart of the people. Leaders, saints, these are all alive after death, after their physical death, as they overcome the life beyond senses. They overcome the command, the fear, the need, the greed, and all those things which are created through the senses. They overcome it. And because of this overcoming, they are alive even after their death. They are amrut. Soldiers, all the people in all the areas, artists, they make great art and they are alive. We listen to the songs of the singers which have already died long back, but when we still hear their voices and they are alive. So it is not only the physical part which is to be considered to understand a dead or alive. And God is explaining us that why it is coming important, because the situation here is that Arjun doesn't want to fight because he thinks that dying physically is end of the life. And God is trying to explain him what is a continuity of life. And that is why God has told this sloka. But then the question arises in our mind, and it also arises in Arjun's mind, as we will see in the further slokas. The question arises, then what is the life and how do we live? Should we not use our senses? Why God has given our senses? Without senses, we will not be guided to the outside world, how to react, how to live. We will physically die anyway if we do not use our senses. If I am walking on the road and if I see a car rushing towards me, my eyes will tell me that jump away from the road. So I am saved. So senses are giving us good information also. It is not always a bad information. Senses are there, and that is why God has given it to us to use them. They are there to give us the information about the outside world. It also gives us a happiness, the feeling of happiness. Imagine there is a person who doesn't feel happy at all or doesn't feel sorrowful at all. He is dead even if he is physically alive. So God is not telling us that do not feel the experiences from the senses. The God is telling us to be equipoised when the senses are giving us the experiences. That is what God is trying to say. And we cannot ignore it. But we have to see that what kind of signals are acceptable and going towards it, and which signals are not acceptable and not going towards it. Everybody wants something free, but doesn't mean that everybody will try to start stealing. No. That is why when we sometimes see a great people are doing a very normal work. Take for example, eating is a very simple example. If there is a nice sweet dish, there is a very good sweet dish called srikhanda. It is made of yogurt and sugar. A very tasty dish. I love to eat it. So when I am eating that srikhanda and Adi Shankaracharya is eating the srikhanda, the tongue of each person is having the same senses, but the feeling and the experiences which I get in my mind of that eating is different than the feeling and the experiences in the mind of the Adishta. We are all common people. So we enslave with the feeling of the senses and we want to repeat that experience which is favorable and happy. And that is what is supposed to be controlled. It should be equipoised. It should be taken equally when it is either a bad experience or a good experience. In both cases, how can we take it? If we take it as a body, then naturally a bad experience is not favorable. Suppose unfortunately somebody comes in a contact with somebody has an accident and they lose one of their limb. It is not a good experience, definitely. And same way, a person is getting a lottery, for example, a happy experience. Important part is anything experiences which is connected to the perishable body is to be taken equipoisely. And how we can take it? By understanding the continuity of life, which is Atma. If we understand that we are Atma, all the things which are coming as a happy or sorrow experience to the body is obviously taken very equally, which is called here as a sama sukha dukha dhira. That is called as a dhira. So let us go further, because God is explaining this complex thing. We are always seeing ourselves as a body. We are always seeing ourselves as an experience. We never see ourselves as an Atma or a soul. And this is the reason why the God is trying to explain us more further about what is an Atma, what is a soul. So we will go to the 16th sloka. I will chant it. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, upayorapi drashtonta, stvanayo spattadarshibhi. Nasato vidyate bhava. Here the God is talking about asata and sata. Na asata. Asat means temporary here. Asat has got so many meanings. And one of the meaning is sat means which is true, which is there, which is ever existing, which does not change, which is flawless, which has got no errors in it, which cannot commit any error, which is true at every location, is sata. And asat means it is temporary. Nasato vidyate bhavo. Na asata vidyate, there is. So there is asata which is temporary. And na bhavo vidyate sataha. Means sataha, sata is always there. There is never a condition where sat is not there, and there is never, and there is the asata is always a temporary. It never exists. So na asata vidyate bhava, na bhava vidyate sataha. This is what it is telling us. Ubayo, ubaya means both sides. Ubaya of the two. Drashtonta, drashta antaha. In a conclusion, antaha means conclusion, in the end, it is observed. Stvanayo stattvadarshibi. Tattva-darshibi means by the seers, one who can see the tattva. That is the anvay of this sloka. So what it translates is that the transient, there is no, it is a very complex English over here. Of the transient, there is no endurance. And of the eternal, there is no cessation. There is no stopping. So sata never stops. And asata never continues. And this is in conclusion seen or observed by the truth seekers or tattva-darshibi. And they see this as a continuity and non-continuity. So here the important word is tattva-darshi. One who can see beyond and within. One who can see both the change and continuity with confidence as true and certain. That is Tattvadarshi. So what do they observe? Basically it is we. We can also do the same thing. We can try to do that. What do they observe? That Asat is temporary. It is unreal. It is constantly changing. And hence it does not exist. It is the experience of change, but it does not exist. Let us take an example. This is very important thing to understand, because how something is there and it does not exist. If we say that this chair is in front of me, this computer is in front of me, and I have got this water bottle, and we say that because they are all perishable and they are going to one day get destructed, they are not true. We cannot say that, because if I am thirsty, I will pick up the bottle and I will take some water from it. How we can say that it is asata? How we can say it is temporary and not true? Let us take an example of a child, a boy. He is a 12-year-old boy. He is a 12-year-old boy. And we say that this boy is 12 years old. The moment while we are telling that this boy is 12 years old, when we see him, at least there are some microseconds or seconds have passed between when we see it and when we tell. But when we tell, in reality, that boy has already grown, at least by that much microseconds, further along the year 13. So when we say that this boy is exactly 12-year-old, say for example, that is not true, because it is continuously changing. Anything which is continuously changing cannot be described or cannot be identified as a sata. It cannot be identified. Imagine that there is a light which is continuously changing from blue to red to yellow to green. So when somebody is telling the other person that, see, there is a blue light, but by the time the other person see, the light has changed to green, he will say, no, I see a green light. The other person will say, now it has changed to red. The other person will see it as a red. So is the light blue or red or green? We cannot say that, because it is continuously changing. It is not a truth. It is not a truth because it is continuously changing. When something is continuously changing, we have to identify that as an asata. Let us take another example. We do the satsanga. Sata sanga. Satsang. Sang means to coming together, to come in contact. Sata sanga means one which is eternal, which is not changing, which is continuous, which is flawless, which has got no errors, no lacuna in it. And we try to understand it, and we try to understand our relationship with the God. Development of that understanding is the objective and fruit of satsanga. So it is called as a sata. The God is sat because God is continuous. He is omnipresent. He is always there. And we try to come together with the thoughts and the messages of the God which has given us. That is why it is called as a satsanga. Because it is continuous, it is true at all the time, and we are connecting with it even during that short period. When we connect with it, our understanding of the satsanga and the objective is that we understand the part of the continuity and we understand the part of the discontinued, the sata and asata. If we understand that, then the satsang is a purpose. Then it is very fruitful. That is why we do the satsang, sang of the God, satsanga, the connection with the God. Now, one who see both of them clearly, who can see the sat and asat, both sides, with confidence as true and certain, is Tattvadarshi. That is a person who is Tattvadarshi. And one which is constantly changing cannot be said as an it exists, because the moment we explain it, its way of existence keeps changing. So our sentence of describing it cannot be true at any given moment, and that is why it is asata. And that is the explanation which God has given over here, that you follow the sat part, you do not follow the asat part, because anything which is changing, which is going to be um, uh, 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 changing its quality, its situation, its existence, it's a shape, size, going for it continuously and craving for it is going to create only the pain and distress in our life, because it is going to change all the time. This is a psychological analysis we have to do in ourselves, that if I want to be happy, I have to be going for the sata. I have to follow the sata part. If I follow the asata part, the asat part will keep on changing. It will not be there as I wanted it, and now because of that I am unhappy. Following a asat will always make a person unhappy, because asat keeps changing. So now God is going further, explaining us about the sata. What is a sata? So I will go to the next sloka, which is 17th sloka. I'll chant it first. Avinashi tu tadvidvi yena sarvamidam tatam vinashama vyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhasi. Avinashi tu tadvidvi. Avinashi, indestructible. Vidhi means know. Avinashi tu tat vidhi. Avinashi tu tat vidhi. You understand it, you know it, indestructible. Yena sarva midam tatam. Entirely, this Atma you consider as a indestructible. Vinasham avyayasyasya. Vinasham means destruction of avyayasya, of the imperishable. So it tells that you always make a clear understanding in your mind that the Sat is Avinashi, it is indestructible, and the perishables are destructible. So avyayasya, of the imperishable, asya, of it, na kaschit, no one, kartum, cause, that which pervades the entire body, the soul pervades in the entire body. Know it to be indestructible. No one can cause the destruction of imperishable soul. Imperishable is avyayasya, is imperishable. So here the God is explaining us the qualities of a soul, how a soul is there. It is very difficult for understanding something which is not physical, which we can easily explain a physical object by its shape, size, color, qualities, use, how it is made. We can explain it. But because we cannot see, and we have mixed up our soul with our body as one and not two different things, that is why to understand a soul becomes little challenging. So God is explaining us further over here a difference between perishable and non-perishable. We have delusion. So God is explaining us the indestructible soul residing in our body. So who are we? We are body or soul? Medical sciences are telling us that anything which is brain dead is a dead person. Medical sciences doesn't say, even if a person is losing the limbs, a majority part of the body, but the brain is active, they say that a person is alive. Failure of the brain to react is considered as a death. Hence, even if the physical body is there, but if the brain stops reacting, then we call a person as a dead person. And when a person dies, we say that so and so person has died, is gone. A person has gone. This is very, in simple words, we can understand it that if a person has gone, if somebody has gone, but the body is still there, that means there was something in that body which has gone, and now only what is left over is a material object. This is the first understanding of the soul. What is a soul? A soul is something which has gone out of a body, and that is why we say that so and so person has gone, has departed. In English we have also got the word as departed. Has departed, is gone. So definitely, and then that person does not react with us, that person does not talk with us. Definitely that means that what we are is a soul. We are not the body, because when we are gone as a dead person, our soul is gone. So identification of ourselves can only be defined by the soul and not by the body. We cannot be defined by the body. We have to identify by the soul, because that is what we are. When that goes out of the body, we do not anymore identify that body as that person. Now, in our whole life, we are considering these two things as one. We consider our body and ourselves, which is within, as only one entity. We do not consider them as two different entities. And our experiences, our reactions, our aspirations, actions, everything is based on that one understanding that these two things, soul and the body, is one thing, which is us. So the happiness or sorrowful experiences which happens to the body is taken as the experiences of the soul, and that is why we become unhappy. If we consider the experiences as a changeable experiences to the body, then the soul will be always happy, because it is not connected with it. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That is where it comes to. It's a very deep theory, and it is very much practically applicable even everyday life. So we work, we get identified, we get connected with the outside world through the body. The body is an instrument. The body is a means. But we, which is a soul within, is the one which we can identify as ourselves. Body is a tool. It is a means to reside, represent and act. So somebody will ask, oh, how does it happen? It doesn't seem to be practical, or it doesn't seem to be applicable. Let us take example of government. What is a government? Is there a physical body we can call that this is a government? It keeps changing. The president changes, the minister changes, keeps changing. All the governance people are keeping on changing. So we cannot say that this is government, this person. We cannot say a building is government. There is a building which is used for doing the governance, the government buildings and all. We cannot say that that building is a government, because it is made of mortar and wood and metals. So it is not a building, it is not a person, it is not a physical body. But still the government has got its own rules, regulations, it works, it controls the people, it does all the functions of a governance. So even though it is not a physically identifiable body, it has got its functions and it works through various instruments, the governance instruments, to manage the law and order and peace in the society, the availability of resources to the people, maintaining environmental stability, helping the people who are in need, education, so many departments. Government has got hundreds of departments. These are all the departments which work, and there is a governance. But we cannot identify that as a physical body, which is a government. And that is one of the very big reason to have a national flag. Because national flag represents a body. We can physically see that this is our nation. And that is why there is a great respect. And people have given their lives for the flag, for the nation. So, understanding the Atma or soul is also in the same way, that it functions through the body. It does all the actions which are required to maintain the body, to go further in the life, to grow and eventually die. But it is still using that as a tool. It is not using it. It is not part of it. It is an invisible thing which is inside the body and manages all the actions of the body, which may be physical or psychological. And this has got so many deep things in it. It will come in the third chapter about how the whole mechanism of senses, the mind, and the intellect works together. So it will come. So, but let us go further with this one to understand. And God is telling us further over here about explaining it more about the soul. So I will chant the 18th sloka here, which is from the chapter 2. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirana anashino prameyasya tasmat yuddhasva bharata. Yes. Antavanta ime deha. Antavanta, having an end. Ima, these, deha, material bodies. At the end of this material bodies, nitya syokta sharirina. Nityasya, eternally. Ukta are said. Ukta means which is said. Sharirina, of the embodied soul. At the end of the material body, which is perishable, and the embodied soul, which is indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal. So, only the material body is perishable. Antavanta ime deha. The material body is perishable, and one which is nitya is anashino. Anashino means it is indestructible, and aprameyasya means immeasurable. It's not, it cannot be measured. Tasmad, therefore, yuddhaya, yuddhasva. That means you start the fighting. So here God is explaining again that only the material body is perishable, and the embodied soul, the soul which is embodied by that body, within the body, is indestructible and not measurable, immeasurable, and it is eternal, nitya. Therefore you fight. Now here God is explaining it to the Arjun based on the situation there. The situation here is that Arjun is a warrior and is supposed to fight. He is supposed to fight the war which is already standing over there. And he told that I will not fight, because all these people will die. When these people will die, I do not want the kingdom which is marred by the blood of my relatives, and also I will not be happy when they are already gone. So whom will I have the kingdom with when all my relatives are gone? So Arjun's main Arjun's main concern is the people will die. They will cease to exist. And that is why God is explaining the difference between the Sat and Asata, the soul and the material body, that what cease to exist and what doesn't cease to exist, which is one which is eternal, which is continuous, which is indestructible. So here the word is Antavanta. There is a definite start and end of any physical body. There is always a definite start and definite end. It grows, it acts, it deteriorates. becomes dysfunctional and eventually destroyed. Any physical object is always like that. It can be human, it can be animal, it can be a chair or a table. Anything which we see with our eyes or feel as a material object is going to get destructed, is going to be destroyed, is going to perish. And that is why the biggest fear in embodied soul is death. Because they think that I will cease to exist. Because we relate us as a body. So understanding that I am not my body removes that fear. Why we are studying all this? Somebody will ask, okay, so what does it give me? Give me the practical application of it. How I can apply it in my life? How it is going to help me today in my life? So understanding that I am not my body removes the fear of non-existence. It removes the fear of cease to exist. It removes the fear of a dead end. We understand ourselves as a soul which is not a material body, and hence it has got no limitations of a physical shape. And that is why it is immeasurable also. So God is trying to tell us to remove the fear of non-existence at the end of the cycle, the life cycle of the body. Why? Because a fearful person cannot enjoy or work. If a person is continuously having a fear, one or the other fear, then they cannot enjoy whatever is in their hand. I sometimes give an example of the old days when there were dacoits. The dacoits were coming in the village and they were looting the people and killing the people. Imagine that there is a big industrialist or a very rich man in the village, and the dacoits come and they put a paper, a chit with a nail on that door, that tonight we are going to come and we are going to do the looting and killing you. Now the person comes home at around 5 o'clock in the evening from the work and all that, and he is reading the paper. Oh, the dacoits are going to come. Now dacoits are still not there. Dacoits are going to come maybe 12 o'clock in the night as per the paper. But at 5 o'clock only, that person is very, very worried. He will not be able to eat whatever is good food in front of him on the dining table, because he is a very rich person, he can afford those resources. He will not be able to enjoy that food, even though he may be eating that food. And in the same way, he will not be having any sleep, even though he has got the best bed in the world. It is the most comfortable cushion in the world. He will not be able to sleep because he is worried. Ashantasya kuto sukham. It will come in further in the Gita also. A person who is ashant, a person who is fearful, a person who is afraid, a person who is worried, cannot enjoy or cannot have a peace of mind which is going to give the experience of happiness. And we all want to be happy. Take another example. We are eating a good food, and we suddenly, while eating, we get a message that one of our relative or one of our friend has met with an accident or something wrong has happened to them. Now we are worried. So when we are worried, even though the same food is in our mouth, we do not savor it. We do not enjoy that food because our mind is unhappy. Our mind is worried. And in the life, there are always worries going to come. This example of the death, the perishable body, is one of the biggest fear in a human mind, in a human life, and that is why we took that example. But this example can be extrapolated to any fear in the life. There are mainly 5 types of fear which are explained. One is the fear of the bread and butter. I should not be dying hungry. What will happen to my job? Because I should not die hungry. That is a fear. Then the fear of life. Oh, what will happen if I fall sick? If my body doesn't work, I will cease to exist. Then the fear of insult. If I talk something, if I do something, will I be having in a shameful situation? Somebody will, dishonor me. A feeling of loss of identity and honor. So there are so many, a feeling of losing other person, the relatives. That is what Arjun is having here. A feeling of losing kith and kin. Oh, what will happen if my relative, a close relative or a family member is dying? What will happen if they die? So there will be so many problems already because the world is changing. So the problems will be there. And the changing world will need us to get adjusted to it. If we are keeping on worrying on every change which is happening, we cannot enjoy our life. So to enjoy our life, we have to understand that we are beyond the things which are changing. We are beyond the materialistic or the material world which is changing. If we understand ourselves that we are soul, and this soul is eternal, it is continuous, it is indestructible, it is going to change from one to the other body, dehante, then we do not worry about those changes. And when the changes are coming, even though it is favorable or non-favorable, happy or distress, we will take it equipoised, because we now know that the changes are happening to the perishable side and it is not happening to the eternal side. And if we identify ourselves as an eternal, then we will not be worried about any of the changes. And when there are no worry about anything about the changes, our life will be eternally happy. Because now we are connecting ourselves with the eternal, we are not connecting ourselves with the perishable. This is the way, this is the path to be happy. That is why Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. We want to be happy, Anandamay. We should be always in a happy mode. But that will only happen when we identify ourselves as a soul and not as a body. When we identify ourselves as a body, that is where the starting of the problem happens. Let us take an example of the freedom fighters. When they were hung in India, we have heard about so many freedom fighters. When they are hung to death, they were smiling, they were singing, they were not worried about death. One of the big freedom fighter, Bhagat Singh, he was asked, "Are you not afraid of the death? You are going to be hanged in next maybe some minutes." He told, "No, I am going to reborn. I will going to born again. I will be born again. And I will still fight again for the freedom." He is not worried about the discontinuity of the body, because he has identified himself as a soul. That is why. Even in military soldiers, I always say, they fight in the battlefield, fierce battle, without any fear of dying. Are they not afraid of dying? Are they not thinking that they will cease to exist? No. A person who is fearful will not be able to function. If a soldier is there and a soldier is afraid to die, he or she will not be able to work correctly as a soldier. So it is applicable to even everybody, even anybody who has got their own skills, artists, lawyers, doctors, carpenters, anybody who is doing their work. If they are afraid, then they will not be able to perform their duties in a correct way. And if they do not perform the duty correctly, it will impact the other people in the society too. It will not only impact them to be remaining unhappy all the time, but it will also impact the other people. Because if I say, for example, a carpenter is not making a good chair because he is worried. A carpenter, suppose a carpenter has got a son and the son is sick, he is not keeping well. So he is always worried about the son. While he is worried and thinking about the son, if he is making a chair, for example, he will not be able to make a good chair because he is worried about it. So it is not only that we cannot enjoy our life with the available resources because of the worry, it is also we cannot work and function correctly, we cannot act correctly if we are worried. So on both these sides, we can see that anybody who is worried about the, the perishable, will not be able to enjoy and function well in the life. That is what God is trying to say, to make us out of the worry, to get us out of the worry. But all of us are not warriors. Yeah, some people are not that strong in their mind, and we are not warriors. Some people band themselves. That happens. And when it happens, they are unhappy. So anyone who has got a duty to perform should be fearless. Now, we talked about the external factor. Similarly, there is the internal factor. The internal enemies like lust, greed. Let us take example of a government officer. The government officer becomes corrupt because he has to fight against the greed which is in his mind, and he has not fought with it. That is why the person becomes corrupt. He has to win over the inside enemy. He is worried that, oh, it is my body and I have to gather as much resources as possible by hook or crook, and that is why he is taking a bribe. He is becoming corrupt. If he understands that I will be continuously there, and this money or whatever house or whatever I have will be perishable, then he will not be doing this wrong things. So this thought, it not only it is about a personal level, it is also as a society level. When everybody thinks patriotically, then the nation grows. The nation works and performs and grows much better when there are more people who think about the nation as a continuity rather than as a person, as an individual belonging to that country. So, looking at a continuity elevates, it takes the people at a higher level of happiness. One more thing is that continuity is also giving a fear. How continuity is it gives a fear to a normal person. And that is the law of karma. If I am told that after I am dying, as per the law of karma, I am supposed to be responsible for my deeds because I will not cease to exist, then I will be more careful. I will not do wrong things. It will give them either an understanding, and that understanding can be either through a fear or through a love. So that is why in our Sanatan Dharma, we don't say, God fearing. We say God loving. We don't say that be a God fearing person. In other religions, they say, oh, he is a God fearing person. That means he is fearful of wrong things being done and punishable by the God. So be fearful about the rule of the God, the judgment of the God. But in Sanatan, it is not there, because it is a continuity. So when there is a continuity, you are responsible for your karmas. When you are responsible for your karmas, you will not do wrong things. And you will have a love for the God. That He is there to keep me, He is there to take care of me. So this helps in multiple ways. This helps in personal way, this helps in a society way, this helps in even beyond this birth, it helps to a person to continue the life and do the actions which is more righteous. Because we are answerable in the next birth. We will not cease to exist. So, hence in this slok, it explains us the action and the activeness we have to do. We have to be active, we have to take actions without fear, which are necessary in our everyday life. We should be taking correct, righteous actions every day in our life without fear. And we know that because of the fear, sometimes we don't take right decisions. Then we think, oh, at that time, if I would have done this, it would have been a great thing. But now it is not there. The time has gone. I have lost the opportunity. Why? Because I was fearful of other things. So having a fear also impacts our future achievements. And that is why there should not be any fear in the life, and that fear can only go with the satta. That is why there should be satsang. When we see the continuity of life, the continuity of Atma, and we understand it through the scriptures, that is satsang, and that is why the satsang has to be done. When we do this study, that is swadhyay, this is also the same thing. We try to understand it and we try to apply it in our life. I will stop over here today on this sloka because it's already time. We are going to take 19th sloka of second chapter next Saturday onwards, again at the same time, 10 to 11. Till then, I wish everyone having a great weekend. It's going to be a lot of snow removal. I know people who are from Toronto are going to work really hard to make the things proper. Drive safe and enjoy your time during the weekend. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Guruve.
ओम कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय
हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ विश्वेश्वराय शिव विश्वेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ विश्वेश्वराय शिव विश्वेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ विश्वेश्वराय शिव विश्वेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ विश्वेश्वराय शिव विश्वेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ॐ कोटेश्वराय शिव कोटेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः